The courtroom is silent. Cameras flash. And amidst all that, Kody Brown stands frozen, eyes wide as Christine's lawyer slams a folder of secret financial records onto the table. The air is electric. One truth away from explosion. Smile on camera, preach love and unity as they have done for years. But behind those smiles lie a tangle of lies, betrayals, and hidden deals, waiting to tear them apart, and now, under oath, those secrets are about to surface. Let's reveal the courtroom showdown that changed everything. Before we start, drop a comment. Whose side are you on? Christine's truth or Kody's defense? The clock struck 9 a.m. and the courtroom doors creaked open, wafting an air redolent of old papers, tension, and just a touch of nervous perfume. Reporters packed the hall, murmuring like bees. It wasn't just another trial. It was the trial, the one that would define the legacy of the sister wives family. Christine Brown walks in first, her face calm, though her hands slightly shake while she readjusts her blazer. She's not coming in as a wife anymore. This time, she comes in as a woman on the quest for justice. Each of her steps reverberates louder than the last one. Behind her, Janelle walks quietly, her presence firm but heavy with conflict. Then comes Kody, his golden curls still neatly tied back, his jaw tense with pride. Robin clings to his arm, her voice whispering something, her eyes darting nervously around. The camera starts snapping the moment they enter. All rise, the bailiff says, and the courtroom does so. Judge Helen Watterson takes her seat stern, composed, and with a look that could cut through stone. Christine's attorney, Daniel Hart, is a sharp man with a calm voice. He begins, "Your Honor, this case isn't about money. It's about truth. For more than 10 years, my client lived in a world built on promises that then converted into control. She asked for justice for emotional manipulation and financial deceit and to finally free herself from a life built on lies." Kody's attorney, Richard Steele, leans forward, smirking. "Your Honor, this is not a courtroom for heartbreak stories. This is simply a family matter that has been blown out of proportion by reality television fame my client gave everything emotionally and financially to his wives. This case is nothing more than veiled revenge masquerading as righteousness." The tension is palpable. Christine doesn't flinch. Her eyes are locked on Kody's, and for the first time, he looks away. "Mr. Brown," says the judge, "do you understand the charges?" "Yes, Your Honor," Kody mutters in a gravelly voice, "but I don't accept her version of our life. I loved her." The word loved lingers. Christine's lips twitch. Not quite a smile, not quite anger. Christine takes a deep breath as she's called to the stand. Her fingers tighten on the Bible as she swears to tell the truth. She glances at her daughters sitting in the back, their eyes glistening. Daniel starts off softly. "Christine, when did things start to change?" She pauses. "It wasn't one moment. It was years of pretending, of smiling on camera while my heart was breaking. He told me my feelings were weakness, that obedience was love, but love shouldn't feel like a prison." The courtroom listens with bated breath. Even Kody squirms uncomfortably in his chair. Robin looks down, biting her lip. Daniel opens the folder containing the documents. "Christine, do you recognize these financial statements?" Christine nods. "Yes, those are from the family account, but that's not all the money we had." The judge raises an eyebrow. "Explain." Christine looks directly at Kody. He had a second account, one only he and Robin had access to. Gasps ripple through the room. Robin's face flushes red. "That's not true," she blurts out, standing abruptly. "We were just managing things for the family." The judge bangs her gavel. "Mrs. Brown, sit down." Kody leans forward, his voice rising. "Christine, you're twisting everything. You walked away from the family, and now you want to destroy us in court." Christine's calm breaks. "You destroyed us the moment you decided one wife mattered more than the rest." Her voice shakes, but her words hit like thunder. The courtroom falls silent once more. Even the judge appears to take a breath before continuing. Daniel picks up another paper. "Your Honor, these records reflect over $240,000 transferred from the joint family fund to an account listed under Robin Sullivan Brown within 6 months before Christine's departure." Kody's lawyer objects, but the judge allows it. The room buzzes like static. Christine's voice shakes, yet remains firm. "I didn't want to do this, but when you lie to protect your pride, you force others to speak the truth." Kody stands up with a jolt. His chair scrapes the floor. "You don't understand loyalty, Christine." I built Judge Watterson slams her gavel again. "Mr. Brown, control yourself." He sits down, breathing heavily, his glare fixed on Christine. The tension between them is more than legal. It's personal. Decades of broken trust wrapped in courtroom etiquette. Christine looks exhausted, but there's relief in her eyes. For once, she whispers, you don't get to interrupt me. The courtroom falls into an uneasy silence. The judge calls for a brief recess. The audience murmurs, reporters rush out to call their editors, and the air feels heavy with something that can't be unsaid. As Christine steps out of the courtroom, Janelle approaches her from behind. You did good, she whispers, but be ready. He's not going to let this go. Christine nods slowly, still staring at Kody, still seated inside, his jaw clenched and whispering furiously to Robin. The gavel falls once more and the courtroom is called back into session. Judge Watterson adjusts her glasses. Next witness, she says. Daniel smiles faintly. We call Janelle Brown. Kody's eyes snap open with incredulity. What? He mutters under his breath. Robin's hand freezes midair. Christine's eyes meet Janelle's. For a fleeting instant, sisterhood flickers before the next storm rolls in. Janelle takes the stand. Her voice is steady. Your Honor, I love this family, but it's time the truth came out. Every last bit of it. The camera zooms in on Kody's face, his confident smirk replaced by something else, fear. The air in the courtroom thickens as Janelle takes the stand, her calm presence in sharp contrast to the oncoming chaos that simmers beneath the surface. Cameras click, pens scratch, and every breath feels heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. She adjusts the microphone, her voice low but firm. Your Honor, she begins, I didn't come here to attack anyone. I came because I've seen too much for too long. Kody shifts uncomfortably, eyes darting between Janelle and Christine, trying to predict what's coming. Janelle glances briefly at him before continuing. This family was built on the idea of unity, but what it became was control. He controlled where we lived, how we spent, even how we felt. A murmur spreads through the courtroom, Robin's eyes filling with tears as Kody's lawyer rises in objection. Speculative, Your Honor. But the judge motions for Janelle to continue. I have documents, she says, reaching into a folder. Messages, notes, things Kody sent me when I questioned his decisions. He told me if I didn't fall in line, I was betraying him. She looks down for a moment, her composure cracking just slightly. But loyalty shouldn't mean silence. And that's when the audience leaned forward, sensing this wasn't testimony. This was confession. Wrapped in courage, Janelle continues, the tone of her voice in a steady quiver between strength and sorrow. When Christine left, I wanted to believe she was wrong. I wanted to believe that he'd change, but he didn't. He became angrier, more controlling, especially when cameras weren't around. Christine lowers her eyes, remembering those nights when she'd hear muffled arguments from other rooms. Kody's lawyer interjects again. Mrs. Brown, isn't it true that you and my client had financial disagreements that caused tension long before this supposed control? Janelle doesn't flinch. Yes, we disagreed because I wanted transparency, because I wanted to know where the money was going. She pauses, then drops the bombshell. He told me Robin's debts were family debts. He used our joint fund to pay for her properties and then told me I was being selfish for asking questions. Gasps echo around the room. Robin's face has lost all color as she whispers, That's not true. We were all supposed to share. Janelle turns toward her softly but firmly. Share? Then why were my kids' tuition payments delayed while your mortgage was paid early? The courtroom erupts into whispers and the judge has to strike the gavel twice to restore order. But no gavel could silence the storm that had just begun. Because now it wasn't just Christine versus Kody. It was the whole family unraveling in real time. Kody's voice rises, frustration cracking through. You don't know what it's like managing everything. You all wanted independence, but who carried the weight when things fell apart? His eyes glisten with a mix of rage and desperation. You made me the villain because I made the hard choices. Janelle looks at him, her eyes soft but unyielding. No, Kody. We made you the villain because you stopped listening. The room freezes. For a moment, there's silence. Pure, deafening silence. Then the judge clears her throat. Mrs. Brown, do you have further evidence? Janelle nods and hands over printed emails showing financial transfers and property deals signed only by Kody and Robin. The judge's eyes scan the document slowly. This could have legal implications, she says firmly. Proceed carefully. Kody's lawyer whispers to him urgently, but Kody's too lost in thought, staring at Christine, Janelle, and even the empty seat that should have been Mary's. He finally speaks, quieter now. I tried. I really did. But all you ever saw was what I didn't give, not what I sacrificed. Christine exhales, her tone sharp but sad. You sacrificed us for control, Kody. You wanted loyalty, but never gave respect. Janelle's voice softens, almost breaking. We believed in you once. We believed that this family meant something more than ego. She looks at the judge. That's all I wanted to say. She steps down slowly, the courtroom watching every movement as if afraid to blink, and just when everyone thought the tension might ease, the next name on the witness list shattered the silence. The court calls Mary Brown, Daniel announces. A murmur sweeps through the room. Kody's head jerks up, eyes wide. No, she's not here, he mutters under his breath. But then, the door opens, Mary walks in. Dressed in a deep navy suit, her expression unreadable, her steps deliberate. Every camera turns toward her. Kody's lips part slightly, but no words come out. Mary nods at Christine and Janelle, then turns toward the bench. I didn't plan to come, she says softly, but when I heard the truth being told, I knew I had to. The judge gestures her forward. As Mary sits, her hands clasped together, her voice carries a quiet power. I was the first wife. I believed in the dream before it became a show, but somewhere along the way, that dream stopped belonging to all of us. It became his stage. Kody closes his eyes, his jaw tight. Mary, he whispers, almost pleading, but she doesn't stop. You told me once, she says, voice trembling, that my loneliness was my fault, that if I just loved harder, things would go back to how they were. But love doesn't fix what's already broken. Tears glimmer at the edges of her eyes. The room is still. Even the cameras seem to hesitate. You built walls, Kody, and you filled them with justifications. Her words land like stones dropped in water, rippling through the silence. And the longer she spoke, the more everyone realized this wasn't just testimony, it was liberation. Years of silence finally finding a voice. Christine's hand trembles as she wipes a tear, and even Janelle looks down, unable to meet Mary's gaze. Robin clings to Kody's arm, whispering frantically, but he doesn't react. He's staring at Mary, a man seeing the wreckage of his own creation. Mary exhales shakily. I don't hate you. I don't even want revenge. I just want peace. The judge leans forward. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. Mary stands, walks past Kody without looking at him, and takes a seat beside Christine. For the first time in years, the three women sit side by side, united not by marriage, but by truth. And in that moment, the audience could feel it. This wasn't just a family falling apart, it was a movement of healing, born right in front of the world's eyes. The judge calls for another recess, and reporters surge toward the exits, phones buzzing with breaking news alerts. Kody stays seated, eyes distant, the weight of years pressing down. Robin whispers, we can fix this, but his silence is louder than any answer. Christine turns to Janelle and Mary. We started this to end the lies, she says softly. Now we finish it together. Outside, thunder rolls in the distance, a storm gathering over Flagstaff. Inside, the family that once shared one dream now stands divided by truth. As the session is adjourned, the judge's voice cuts through the murmurs. Court will reconvene tomorrow morning. The women rise, their shoulders straight, walking toward the door as flashes erupt around them. Behind them, Kody stands alone, his hands clasped, his face reflected in the polished courtroom table. And though no one can hear him, his lips move with what is surely a prayer or a curse. Because in this family, love was never the ending. It was always the beginning of the war. The courthouse buzzes the next morning, tension heavy in the air and thick enough to cut through. Headlines had exploded overnight. Sister wives showdown turns explosive in court. Cameras flash outside, reporters shout, and the crowd waits for the next round of drama. Inside, Christine, Janelle, and Mary sit in a row, once more silent, once more strong. Their unity has moved from words to unsaid but undeniable truth. Kody walks in alone this time. Robin is not by his side. His face is pale, his eyes sunken like a man running out of defenses. The air is colder, heavier. The judge enters, her tone sharper. Today, Mr. Brown, the court reminds you this is not a media spectacle. We will proceed with the next witness. Daniel, Christine's lawyer, stands. Your Honor, we call Robin Brown to the stand. The entire courtroom stirs and Kody's head snaps up in shock. No, he whispers harshly. She doesn't need to testify. But the door opens and Robin appears in its frame, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She clutches a tissue tightly, walking as slowly as possible toward the witness box. Kody's fists clench as he watches her take the oath. "Mrs. Brown," Daniel begins, his voice soft, "you are under oath. Tell us everything you know about the financial arrangements made before Christine's departure." Robin's lips start to tremble. "I didn't want to be here," she whispers, "but it's gone too far to hide anymore." She looks at Christine, then at Kody. "Yes, there was a separate account. Yes, I knew about it, but I swear it wasn't supposed to be secret." Christine's eyes narrow. "Then why did you tell me it was family money when you knew it wasn't?" Robin's eyes gleam. "Because I was afraid that if you left, everything would fall apart." Kody leaps suddenly to his feet, his voice thundering through the courtroom. "Robin, don't do this." The judge slams her gavel down. "Mr. Brown, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt." He pounced back into his chair, breathing heavily, his glare locked on Robin. And just like that, the courtroom turned from battle to betrayal, each word slicing through years of silence. Robin continues. "He said it was only to protect us, to keep things stable. But I should have questioned him. I should have told them." Her voice breaks and a single tear escapes down her cheek. "I love this family. I believed in it more than anything." Daniel steps closer. "Mrs. Brown, are you saying you were aware of financial manipulation?" The word manipulation hangs in the air like smoke. Robin hesitates, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes." The gasp that follows seems to shake the walls. Kody's lawyer jumps to his feet. "Objection! Coerced testimony!" The judge waves him down. Overruled. Kody mutters under his breath, "You don't know what you've done." Robin looks up at him, shaking. "I know exactly what I've done. I told the truth." For a moment, it feels like time stops. The courtroom, the cameras, even the whispers, all fade into stillness. And that silence carried more weight than any accusation. It was the sound of truth breaking free. Christine exhales shakily, her eyes glistening, but her expression resolute. The judge turns to Daniel. "Proceed." Daniel nods. "Mrs. Brown, did Mr. Brown ever pressure you or any of the wives to stay quiet about the finances or family disputes?" Robin nods slowly. "He told us that if we stayed united, no one could use our secrets against us. He said talking to each other about money or feelings would destroy the family." Mary looks down, her eyes wet. "And we believed him," she says softly. "Every word." The judge takes notes, her expression unreadable. Kody finally speaks again, his voice low but laced with venom. "You're all rewriting history, every one of you. I gave everything, my time, my love, my life, and this is what I get? Public humiliation?" His lawyer tries to calm him, but he shakes him off. "You want truth? Fine. You all left when things got hard. You abandoned me." Christine stands suddenly, her voice rising for the first time. "We didn't abandon you, Kody. You abandoned us. You chose control over compassion." The courtroom erupts in murmurs again. The judge slams her gavel. "Order." But it's no use. The room vibrates with emotion. Kody points at Christine, his voice cracking. "You were supposed to be loyal. You all were." Mary looks up, her voice steady but quiet. "Loyalty without respect is slavery, Kody." The words hang in the air, raw and painful. Robin begins to sob quietly, her shoulders shaking. Janelle reaches over and places a gentle hand on Christine's arm. "He doesn't see it yet," she murmurs, "but this isn't about winning anymore." Because now it wasn't about justice or money, it was about closure, something they'd all been too afraid to chase. The judge sighs, rubbing her temples. "We will take a short recess before we lose control of this courtroom." Everyone stands slowly. Kody storms out the side door, ignoring the cameras waiting outside. Robin remains in the witness box, wiping her eyes, whispering, "I didn't want it to end like this." Christine approaches her quietly. "It's not the end, Robin. It's the truth." Robin nods weakly. "The truth hurts more than I thought it would." Christine replies softly, "That's how you know it's real." When the court resumes, the atmosphere has shifted. The tension is no longer anger, it's exhaustion, the heavy ache that follows confrontation. Daniel steps forward again. "Your Honor, we request to admit Exhibit D into evidence, Christine's personal journal entries from the final year of her marriage." Kody's head snaps up. "No, that's private." The judge frowns. Mr. Brown, you made your life public long before this courtroom. Continue, Mr. Hart. Daniel opens the worn leather journal and reads softly. Day 247. He didn't talk to me again today. I watched him laugh with Robin through the window, and for the first time, I realized I was invisible in my own home. The room falls silent. Christine closes her eyes, fighting tears. Day 263, he said love has rules, but I'm starting to think his version of love only works when no one else has a voice. Even the judge seems to soften. Her pen pausing mid-note, Daniel closes the journal gently. Your Honor, this isn't about pity. It's about pattern. Years of emotional isolation and manipulation that pushed my client to this point. Kody exhales shakily, his anger fading into something else. Defeat. His eyes glisten, his voice barely a whisper. I didn't mean to lose them. I just didn't know how to keep them. The words hang heavy, filled with regret too late to matter, and for the first time, even the audience watching could feel it. Beneath all the pride and the shouting, there was a man who'd finally realized what he'd destroyed. The judge leans back, her expression unreadable. Court will resume tomorrow for closing arguments, she says, her tone softer than before. As everyone rises to leave, Christine looks back at Kody. Their eyes meet, years of love, anger, pain, and loss condensed into a single glance. She whispers under her breath, "You could have saved us." He doesn't reply. Outside, thunder rolls again, as if the storm from yesterday hadn't finished its business. Christine steps out of the courthouse, reporters swarming, but she barely hears them. Behind her, Robin exits alone, her tears falling freely. Janelle and Mary walk quietly beside Christine, the three of them sharing an unspoken strength. Inside, Kody remains in his seat, staring at the empty witness stand, his hands trembling. For once, there's no camera, no spotlight, just the echo of everything he lost. And as the lights dim in that courtroom, one truth stands clear. In the war between love and power, power may win the battles, but love always wins the final judgment. The next day dawned gray and cold, as if the sky itself knew the final stretch of this family's unraveling was about to unfold. The courthouse steps were flooded with cameras once again, but this time the atmosphere felt heavier, quieter, more like a funeral than a trial. Inside, Christine sat at the plaintiff's table, fingers intertwined tightly, her mind replaying every memory that had led to this moment. The shared dinners that turned into silent meals, the family meetings that became monologues, the tears that were never comforted. Across from her, Kody entered with his shoulders squared but his spirit visibly frayed. Robin followed slowly, her face pale from sleepless nights, while Janelle and Mary sat together in quiet solidarity. The judge entered promptly at 9, her gavel echoing like thunder. This court will now hear closing testimonies, she announced. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel rose first, buttoning his suit jacket. Your Honor, he began, today isn't about punishing Mr. Brown. It's about acknowledging the damage hidden beneath the surface of what millions believed was love and unity. He gestured toward Christine, then to Janelle and Mary. These women stood by him for decades, believing in a shared dream, until that dream became their prison. His voice cracked with quiet emotion. The evidence shows a pattern of deceit, manipulation, and emotional control. But more than that, it shows the cost of silence. He stepped back, the words hanging heavy in the air. Kody's lawyer, Richard, stood next, his tone colder, more calculated. Your Honor, this is not a criminal case. This is the story of a broken family, and every side of it is tinted with pain. Mr. Brown never forced anyone to stay. He simply believed in something that fell apart when others stopped believing too. He turned toward Kody. Would you like to speak? Kody nodded, slowly rising to his feet. His voice was lower than usual, cracked around the edges. I know I've made mistakes, he began, but everything I did because I thought it would hold us together. I love them all. I still do. His words hung there, fragile, like a confession he didn't expect forgiveness for. I didn't hide money out of greed. He continued, I did it because I was afraid. Afraid that if the family fell apart, there'd be nothing left of me. Christine's eyes softened briefly, just for a heartbeat, but the pain was too deep to bridge. You kept saying you did it for us, she said quietly, her voice trembling but firm. But what you really did was for control. You didn't want love. You wanted obedience. The crowd murmured. Even the reporters seemed hesitant to take notes now. This wasn't just a trial anymore. It was closure. And in that moment, the courtroom didn't feel like a battlefield. It felt like a confessional. Every secret laid bare under the weight of truth. The judge looked at Christine. "Mrs. Brown, would you like to make your final statement?" Christine stood, her posture steady, despite the storm brewing in her eyes. "For years, I thought I was the problem. I thought if I smiled more, loved harder, obeyed longer, he'd see me again. But love isn't meant to be earned. It's meant to be shared." She turned toward Kody, voice breaking. "You wanted to be the sun, Kody, but you forgot that even the sun burns everything too close to it." A soft gasp rippled through the room. Janelle reached over, gripping Christine's hand, silent strength passing between them. "All I ever wanted," Christine continued, "was freedom, and not just for me, for all of us, to stop pretending we were okay, to stop calling pain devotion." Her words drew quiet tears from Mary, who nodded subtly. Kody looked down, his lips trembling, his pride collapsing under the truth. Robin dabbed at her eyes, whispering prayers no one could hear. Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't to win. It's to finally stop fighting for something that's already gone. The judge sighed, visibly moved. This court acknowledges the emotional trauma presented. While no financial ruling can heal those wounds, restitution for concealed funds will be determined by the state's Financial Ethics Committee. For now, this family needs truth more than money. Her gavel struck once. Case adjourned for today, final verdict tomorrow. The courtroom exhaled collectively, but the storm wasn't done yet. Kody turned toward Christine as she gathered her papers. "You've destroyed what little we had left," he said bitterly. Christine looked at him, her expression soft but resolute. "No, Kody. I just stopped pretending it wasn't already destroyed." She turned away, walking toward the door with Janelle and Mary. Robin remained seated, staring at the floor, whispering, "He promised it would never come to this." Kody muttered, "I promised a lot of things." As they exited, cameras exploded in flashes again, the noise almost deafening. But inside Christine's mind, everything was quiet. She remembered the day she first joined the family, the hope, the laughter, the dream. How young she'd been, how much she'd believed. Now, standing on those same courthouse steps, she felt the strange calm that follows a storm. "Are you okay?" Janelle asked softly. Christine smiled faintly. For the first time in a long time, yes. Behind them, Kody emerged into the flashing lights, reporters shouting questions. "Mr. Brown, do you regret your choices? Will you appeal? What do you have to say to Christine?" He ignored them all, staring at the sky instead. Rain beginning to drizzle down. Mary watched him for a moment, whispering, "He's not the man we married anymore." Christine replied quietly, "Maybe he never was." Inside, Robin stood alone in the now empty courtroom, tears streaming freely. She whispered to herself, "We wanted forever, but maybe forever was never meant to hold this many hearts." Her voice echoed faintly in the silence outside. Thunder rolled again, the clouds swirling over Flagstaff as if echoing the chaos within the Browns' hearts. The courthouse doors closed behind them, marking the end of one chapter and the uncertain beginning of another. That night, Christine sat by her hotel window, the lights of the city glowing softly. Her phone buzzed with messages from her kids, words of pride and love that made her eyes fill again. "You did the right thing, Mom," one message read. She smiled faintly, whispering, "I hope so." Down the street, in another hotel, Kody sat alone, staring at his reflection in the darkened window. The man staring back looked older, emptier, his own arrogance replaced by regret. He whispered, "I tried to hold it all together, but even he didn't believe it anymore." Robin sat in the adjoining room, holding a photo of all of them together years ago, smiling, laughing, unaware of the storm that awaited them. "We could have had peace," she whispered, her tears falling onto the glass. Meanwhile, Janelle and Mary met Christine in the lobby, silent understanding passing between them. No victory, no triumph, just peace. Because sometimes the real justice isn't found in a verdict, but in finally walking away from the pain that kept you chained. As the rain fell harder, the women stepped outside, the air cool against their faces, washing away years of exhaustion. Behind them, the courthouse loomed, tall, cold, and symbolic ahead, freedom. The streets shimmered in the rain, and Christine whispered to herself, "Tomorrow it ends." But in her heart, she knew the truth. Tomorrow wouldn't be an ending. It would be a rebirth. The camera fades on her silhouette as she walks into the night, leaving behind not just a courtroom, but a lifetime of silence finally broken. Morning broke over Flagstaff with an eerie calm that didn't match the tension swelling inside the courthouse. The day of the final verdict had come, and the world was watching. News vans filled the parking lot, their satellite dishes pointed toward the sky, capturing every whisper of the Brown family's fate. Inside, Christine sat quietly at the plaintiff's table, her hands folded over a piece of paper she'd written the night before, a personal statement she hadn't decided whether to read. Beside her, Janelle and Mary offered silent support, their expressions calm but heavy with emotion. Across the aisle, Kody entered with Robin close behind, their faces pale, their confidence replaced by the weight of everything they'd lost. The judge entered precisely at 9 a.m., her black robe flowing behind her like a shadow of authority. "We are here to deliver the final judgment in the matter of Christine Brown versus Kody Brown," she announced. The entire room fell silent, cameras flashing from the back as if the world itself had stopped breathing. Christine glanced toward Kody for just a second, and their eyes met, a moment that carried every year of their shared life, every joy and betrayal, every "I love you" that turned into silence. The judge began reading. After reviewing the financial documentation, the testimonies, and the emotional impact of the defendant's actions, the court finds Kody Brown liable for the concealment of marital assets. A gasp rippled through the courtroom. Kody's hand tightened on the table. Furthermore, the judge continued, the court recognizes the emotional and psychological damage inflicted by the manipulation of trust within this plural marriage structure. Therefore, restitution in the amount of $450,000 is ordered to be paid to Christine Brown, to be distributed among the impacted parties per her discretion. Christine's breath caught in her throat, not from victory, but from the reality of closure. Kody's face fell, his usual bravado crumbling under the truth. Robin whispered, "Oh, Kody," but he didn't respond. His mind seemed to drift somewhere far beyond the courtroom, lost in the ruins of what once was. The judge looked toward Christine. "Mrs. Brown, would you like to make a statement before we adjourn?" Christine hesitated, then slowly unfolded the paper she had written. Her voice trembled at first, but grew stronger with each word. "For a long time, I thought silence was strength," she began. "I thought being loyal meant staying even when it hurt. But today, I realize strength is walking away even when you're scared." She paused, glancing at the audience filled with cameras and spectators. "This isn't about revenge. It's about truth. It's about women everywhere who have been told that endurance is love. It's not. Love should never demand your silence." The courtroom was still, every word hanging heavy in the air. And in that moment, Christine's voice didn't just belong to her. It belonged to everyone who had ever felt trapped behind a smile. She folded the paper again, set it down, and said softly, "I forgive you, Kody, but I can't go back." Kody's jaw clenched. He looked at her, eyes glistening. "You think forgiveness fixes this?" he said bitterly. "You've destroyed the family I built." Christine shook her head gently. "You built it on fear, Kody. I'm just refusing to live in it anymore." The judge nodded solemnly. "This case is closed." The gavel came down one final time, its echo like a bell marking both an ending and a beginning. The reporters outside erupted as the doors opened, microphones shoved forward, lights flashing like lightning. Christine, Janelle, and Mary emerged together, heads high. "Christine, how do you feel?" one reporter shouted. Christine stopped for a brief second, her expression calm. "Free," she said simply, then walked on. Inside, Robin turned to Kody. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Kody rubbed his temples, his voice low, almost broken. "I don't know. I don't even know who I am anymore." He stood up and walked toward the exit, but when he reached the doorway, he paused, looking back at the empty courtroom, the place where his world had come undone. His voice was barely audible as he said, "It wasn't supposed to end like this." Robin followed him silently, clutching her coat tighter around her. Outside, the rain had stopped, and the sun began to pierce through the clouds, painting streaks of gold across the wet pavement. Christine looked up at the sky, breathing deeply. "It's over," she whispered. Janelle placed a hand on her shoulder. "No," she said softly. "It's just beginning." As the three women walked toward their car, they passed by a small group of fans holding signs that read, "Team Christine and Women Deserve Peace." Christine smiled faintly, humbled but overwhelmed. They don't even know the half of it, she murmured. They don't need to, Mary replied. They just need to see that leaving doesn't mean losing. That night, Christine sat in her new home, surrounded by quiet. Her phone buzzed with messages, some from her children, others from people she hadn't heard from in years. She scrolled through them slowly, smiling softly when one message caught her eye. You've inspired more people than you'll ever know. She placed the phone down and looked out the window. The moonlight poured through the glass, gentle and forgiving. Across town, Kody sat in his den, surrounded by silence that was heavier than the verdict itself. His awards, photos, and family portraits lined the shelves, ghosts of a life that felt like someone else's story. He stared at a framed picture of all the wives and children, back when they were still united. His hand trembled as he touched the glass. I tried, he whispered, his voice breaking. I really tried. Robin entered quietly, setting a cup of tea beside him. Maybe trying isn't enough when love is one-sided, she said softly. He didn't answer. The sound of the clock ticking filled the space between them. Because sometimes the greatest punishment isn't losing. It's realizing too late what you had. The next morning, social media exploded with headlines. Christine Brown wins court battle against Kody Brown. Justice for the sister wives. A family divided forever. But Christine didn't read any of it. Instead, she took a walk through her garden, the air crisp and light. Her children would visit soon, and for once, the idea of the future didn't scare her. It thrilled her. Janelle called later that day, her voice bright. You ready to start planning that road trip? Christine laughed. You bet I am. Mary joined the call, joking, just make sure you save me a seat. I'm done watching from the sidelines. For the first time in years, they laughed. Really laughed, not out of relief, not out of politeness, but out of genuine freedom. Meanwhile, across town, Kody met with his lawyer one last time to finalize the payment plan. As he signed the documents, he muttered, She got what she wanted. The lawyer looked at him with quiet pity. Maybe she just wanted peace, Mr. Brown. Kody didn't reply. He just closed the folder, stood up, and walked out into the light rain. Robin was waiting outside in the car, her eyes filled with worry. Are we okay? She asked. Kody looked out the window, his reflection fractured by raindrops. We'll have to be, he said softly, though neither of them truly believed it. Later that evening, Christine stood on her porch sipping tea as the sunset painted the horizon. She thought of everything she had lost and everything she had gained, the strength to speak, the courage to leave, the peace that comes from telling the truth, even when your voice shakes. She whispered to herself, sometimes you have to break the family to save yourself. Her words drifted into the wind, carried away into the fading light. And as the camera panned out, over the mountains, over the courthouse, over the town that had witnessed their downfall, the voiceover whispered, Love built them, lies broke them, but truth set them free. The screen fades to black, and with it the final echoes of a family that once lived for forever, but finally learned how to let go. Weeks passed after the verdict, and though the courtroom had emptied, the emotional aftermath still haunted every corner of Flagstaff. Christine tried to settle into her new rhythm of life. Morning walks, baking with her daughters, video calls with Janelle. But the silence of independence sometimes felt too quiet. She had won the case, yes, but closure came with its own weight. Each night she found herself replaying moments from the trial. The way Kody's eyes had burned with disbelief, the trembling in Robin's voice when she took the stand, and the way Mary and Janelle had stood beside her despite everything. Yet, under that peace, lay something unsettled. Rumors. Online blogs and fan pages began to circulate whispers that the court ruling wasn't the end. A second case was forming, this time initiated by Robin, alleging emotional defamation and public humiliation brought by Christine's statements after the trial. The shock hit like a lightning bolt. Christine stared at her lawyer's email, her pulse racing. She's suing me? She muttered in disbelief. Her lawyer nodded grimly over the phone. Technically, she's claiming reputational damage to her family. It's thin, but it could drag you back into court. Christine rubbed her temples, frustration boiling. She's doing this for Kody, I know it. The words hung heavy in the room. Across town, Robin sat with Kody at the dining table, her eyes red from crying. I didn't want to do this, she said, voice cracking, but Christine went on national TV. She said I manipulated everything. My kids are getting messages. My reputation is ruined. Kody, torn between guilt and pride, muttered, "She needs to learn. Actions have consequences." Robin looked at him sharply. "And what about yours?" The silence was sharp, cutting through the space like a blade, because sometimes revenge isn't about justice. It's about making pain contagious. The news broke within hours. Robin Brown sues Christine Brown in defamation case following explosive verdict. The media devoured it, headlines screaming across every gossip site. Christine was blindsided, her phone buzzing nonstop. Janelle arrived at her house that afternoon, slamming the newspaper on the counter. "She's lost her mind," Janelle said. "They can't let this go." Christine sighed. "I should have seen it coming. Kody can't stand not being in control." Mary joined them later, bringing coffee and her quiet strength. "He's not in control anymore. That's why he's desperate." "Say yourself that too." Christine smiled faintly, though her heart trembled. "You think I can handle another round of this?" Mary squeezed her hand. "You've already proven you can handle anything." Days later, Christine walked back into the courthouse, the familiar smell of polished wood and cold air greeting her like a ghost she thought she'd buried. Cameras lined the steps again, microphones chasing her every move. Inside, Robin sat with her attorney, avoiding eye contact. Kody was there too, but this time he looked older, drained. The fire that once burned behind his eyes had dimmed, replaced by something hollow. The judge entered, her tone sharper this time, tired of the endless spectacle. This court recognizes the filing of a defamation suit brought by Robin Brown against Christine Brown. However, given the prior context, the court will not tolerate emotional theatrics or public manipulation of the proceedings. Robin's lawyer stood first, confident. "Your Honor, my client has suffered undue emotional distress and reputational harm due to public statements made by Ms. Brown following the previous trial. We will present evidence showing targeted comments and implied character defamation." Christine's lawyer rose calmly. "Your Honor, my client exercised her right to share her truth regarding her personal experience within a failed plural marriage. Nothing stated was defamatory. It was factual and corroborated by testimony from multiple parties." The tension crackled. Christine watched Robin closely. For the first time, she saw something behind Robin's tears. Not grief, not even anger, but fear. Maybe Robin wasn't doing this out of hate. Maybe she was terrified of what came next without Kody's world to cling to. Sometimes the enemy isn't who you think it is. It's the fear that losing control will make you disappear. The trial stretched in for days. Testimonies resurfaced old wounds. Video clips of Christine's interviews were played on screens. Dissected line by line, Robin's attorney tried to paint her as a victim of media misrepresentation. But when Christine was called to the stand, her calm shook the room. "I didn't attack anyone," she said softly. "I told my truth because for years I wasn't allowed to speak. If being honest ruins someone's reputation, maybe it says more about what they did than what I said." Even the judge paused, studying her expression. Robin broke into tears. "You made me the villain," she cried out suddenly. Christine looked at her, her eyes wet but steady. "You made choices, Robin. I just stopped covering for them." The courtroom went silent again. Cameras clicked like heartbeat echoes. Kody sat motionless, his gaze fixed on Christine as if seeing her for the first time. And in that stillness, something shifted, not in favor of either side, but in the quiet realization that no one was coming out of this hole. When the judge returned after deliberation, her voice was firm. "This court finds insufficient evidence to support claims of defamation. The plaintiff's case is dismissed." Robin's sob caught in her throat. Kody stood up abruptly, frustration flaring. "So this is it? She gets to walk away again?" The judge slammed her gavel. "Mr. Brown, control yourself." Kody's shoulders slumped. He turned toward Christine, his voice trembling. "You've taken everything from me, everything." Christine stared back, her tone calm but piercing. "No, Kody. You lost everything the moment you stopped caring who got hurt." She gathered her papers, stood, and walked out, her heels echoing against the marble floor like the final chords of a sad song. Outside, reporters swarmed again, shouting questions. "Christine! Any words for Robin? Christine, are you done with the Browns for good?" She smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "I just want peace," she said simply, and for the first time, she meant it. That evening, as the sun dipped low, Christine sat on her porch once more, the desert breeze warm and forgiving. The chaos of the courtroom was behind her, the noise of headlines fading into the hum of crickets. Janelle called, laughing, "You did it! Again!" Christine chuckled, "No, this time I just didn't lose myself." Mary texted her later, "Proud of you. You turned pain into power." Christine smiled at her phone, her heart lighter than it had been in years. Across town, Robin sat alone in her kitchen, staring at the court papers Kody hadn't spoken since they left the courthouse. When she finally asked, "What happens now?" he just said, "I don't know anymore, Robin." He walked out to the porch, the night air heavy around him, and for once no cameras, no wives, no family stood by him, just silence. Robin's tears fell silently as she whispered, "Maybe Christine was right. Maybe love shouldn't hurt this much." The wind outside carried her words into the darkness. Christine, miles away, looked up at the same moon, unaware of the quiet shift happening on the other side of town. But deep down, she knew the story wasn't just hers. It was everyone's who'd ever fought to reclaim their voice after years of being silenced. And as the night stretched on, her voiceover echoed softly in the distance. Sometimes freedom doesn't come with applause. It comes with peace and the courage to never go back. The world moved on, but the Browns couldn't. Weeks after the second trial ended, Christine began to find her rhythm again, recording podcasts, speaking at women's events, and quietly rebuilding her life with grace. Her confidence shone through every interview, every quote that made headlines. Yet, beneath the calm, there was a quiet ache she couldn't ignore. The lingering memories of years spent fighting for a family that no longer existed across town. Kody spiraled deeper into solitude. The large house that once echoed with laughter now felt like a mausoleum of the past. His children rarely visited, his finances were strained, and his name had become a meme online. One evening, as rain streaked across the windows, Kody sat at his desk surrounded by stacks of unpaid bills and yellowed legal papers. Robin entered quietly, her eyes tired. "We can sell the house," she suggested softly. Kody shook his head, bitterness sharpening his tone. "Sell the only thing I have left? No. That's exactly what they want, to see me crumble." Robin sighed, her voice trembling. "Kody, they're not your enemies." He turned toward her slowly, his expression hollow. "Aren't they? Christine humiliated me, Janelle left me. Mary stopped believing in me, and you," his words trailed off, "you're all I have left." Robin's tears welled, but she didn't reply. That night, Kody couldn't sleep. He walked through the empty house, touching old photographs, birthdays, weddings, family picnics. The faces smiled back at him like ghosts frozen in time. For the first time, guilt began to sink in. Not the guilt of losing control, but the guilt of realizing he'd pushed everyone away. Because sometimes the scariest truth is knowing the villain in your story is you. Meanwhile, Christine received an unexpected call. It was from one of her daughters. "Mom," the girl said, her voice hesitant, "Dad wants to meet. He said he just wants to talk." Christine froze. "Did he say why?" "He said he owes you an apology." Those words sent chills down her spine. Christine wasn't sure whether to believe it or brace for another storm. But something inside her, some small, brave piece, told her to go. A week later, they met at a small park just outside town. The same park where years ago they had brought their children for picnics. Kody stood by the old oak tree, his hair grayer, his posture less certain. Christine approached slowly, unsure of what version of him she'd find. "You look different," Kody said quietly. "So do you," she replied. They stood in silence for a moment, the wind rustling through the trees. Finally, Kody sighed. "I don't even know where to start. I was angry. Not just at you, at everything. I thought I was fighting for my family, but maybe I was just fighting to prove I was right." Christine's expression softened. "You hurt a lot of people, Kody. But I think you hurt yourself most." He nodded slowly, his eyes wet. "I know. And I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to say, I'm sorry. You didn't deserve the way I treated you." Christine's throat tightened. She had imagined this moment countless times, but hearing it felt surreal. "Thank you," she whispered. "That means more than you know." For a few moments, neither spoke. The years of pain hung between them like fog, but for once it didn't feel suffocating. It felt like it might finally lift. Kody looked down, fidgeting with his hands. Do you ever think we could have made it work if I had listened more? Christine gave a sad smile. Maybe, but then we wouldn't be who we are now. Kody laughed softly through his tears. Who we are now? You're stronger. And me? Christine tilted her head. You're still figuring that out, and that's okay. They parted with a quiet understanding, no reconciliation, no grand closure, just a fragile peace. Sometimes healing doesn't mean rebuilding, it means letting the ruins rest. But as Christine walked back to her car, a strange feeling lingered, a sense that the Brown story wasn't done yet. 2 days later, the internet exploded with breaking news. A leaked recording surfaces. Kody Brown caught in private conversation discussing revenge move post-trial. The clip played across every platform. His voice was unmistakable, angry, and bitter. I'll make sure they regret what they did. I'll take the show back. I built that name. Christine's stomach dropped as she watched it on her phone. Janelle called within minutes. Have you seen it? Yes, Christine said softly, heart pounding. Do you think he... It's real, Janelle interrupted. It's his voice. The network that had once filmed Sister Wives released a statement distancing itself from Kody, suspending future projects. Robin, blindsided and furious, confronted Kody. What did you do? She screamed. You promised you were done with this. Kody slammed his fist against the table. They ruined me, Robin. I just wanted my life back. She stared at him, devastated. No, Kody. You wanted control back, and you'll never have it again. She packed her bag that night, leaving behind the man she once defended with her whole heart. The next morning, the paparazzi captured Kody standing alone outside his house as Robin drove away. His face was pale, his hands shaking, the weight of his choices crushing him from inside. Meanwhile, Christine refused to comment publicly. Instead, she focused on her children, on her peace, on her healing. But late into the night, when the house grew quiet, she couldn't help but wonder how far Kody had fallen, and whether this was the ending he'd truly earned, because sometimes karma doesn't knock loudly, it whispers when the lights go out. Days later, a new development emerged. The network reached out to Christine with a proposal, a docuseries about rebuilding after emotional abuse and family collapse. They wanted her to host it. Christine hesitated. Are you sure? She asked during the meeting. I'm not a star. I'm just someone who survived. The executive smiled. That's exactly why people will listen. She agreed. Months later, the show premiered under the name Unbroken Voices. The first episode opened with Christine walking through an empty courtroom, her voiceover. This isn't about winning, it's finding peace in the wreckage. It became an instant hit, being labeled raw, real, and healing. Messages poured in from around the world. Women sharing their stories, thanking her for her courage. One night after filming, Christine sat on her porch again, looking up at the stars. Janelle joined her with a cup of tea. You ever think about him? Janelle asked softly. Christine smiled faintly. Sometimes, but not with anger anymore, just with understanding. Mary called later that night, her voice bright. You know, I watched the episode twice. You made us proud, Christine. Christine laughed. It's not about me. It's about all of us finding our own endings. The conversation ebbed into comfortable silence, and somewhere in the quiet, Christine realized she wasn't haunted anymore. She was free. Kody sat alone in a small apartment, watching Unbroken Voices on a flickering TV screen. His eyes watered as he heard Christine say, healing isn't about proving someone wrong, it's about finally being right with yourself. He turned off the TV, whispering, maybe she's right. The camera panned back to show him sitting in the dark, an empire gone, but perhaps a sliver of humanity finally awakening. The voiceover returned one last time, soft yet powerful. Some stories don't end with forgiveness or revenge, they end with growth. And maybe that's enough. Months had passed since Unbroken Voices had premiered, and Christine's world had transformed in ways she never imagined. The woman who once stood trembling in a courtroom was now standing confidently on stages across the country, speaking about strength, survival, and rediscovering self-worth. Her voice became a movement. Yet with each success, she remained that same Christine who every Sunday made pancakes for her kids and laughed too loud at Janelle's jokes. Fame hadn't changed her. It had simply unveiled the courage she buried for years. But beneath the applause and interviews, something unexpected stirred. A letter, one quiet morning. While sorting her mail, she came across an envelope with no return address. The handwriting was familiar. Her heartbeat quickened as she tore it open. Christine, It started, "I watched your show. I see now what I couldn't before you were right to leave. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll know that losing you was the lesson I deserved." It was signed simply. Kody. Christine stared at the letter for a long time. No anger, no bitterness, just a deep, quiet ache. She folded it gently and placed it in a drawer, whispering to herself, "I already forgave you." Because sometimes closure isn't found in words. It's found in peace. Meanwhile, life had shifted for everyone. Janelle opened her own business to help women start over financially after divorce. Mary started writing a book on rediscovering faith and individuality after betrayal. Even Robin, now living in Utah, was quietly trying to rebuild her life, her social media filled with reflections instead of defenses. For once, all of them were walking separate paths, but in a strange, beautiful way, they were more connected than ever. They had all survived the same storm. One afternoon, Christine received a call from the network. They wanted her to film one last episode for Unbroken Voices, not as a story about healing, but as a story about letting go. "We want to bring everyone together," the producer said carefully, "not to reopen wounds, but to show what healing looks like when everyone finally chooses peace." Christine hesitated. The idea of facing Kody again, even for closure, made her heart race. But deep down, she knew this was how the story was meant to end. A month later, the cameras rolled once more, not in a courtroom this time, but in a quiet cabin near the mountains, the same place where the Brown family once celebrated holidays before it all fell apart. Christine arrived first, her breath catching as she stepped inside. The wooden walls were lined with photos, old memories of the family, their children, their laughter. It felt like walking through a museum of their past lives. Minutes later, Mary entered, smiling softly. "Déjà vu?" she said. Christy nodded, her eyes misty. "Feels like forever ago." Janelle arrived next, hugging them both. "Guess we're really doing this." Then the door opened one last time, and Kody walked in. His once proud stance was gone, replaced by quiet humility. His eyes flicked to the cameras, then to Christine. "Thank you for agreeing to this," he said softly. She nodded. We all needed it. The crew stepped back, giving them space as they sat in a circle by the fireplace. The air was heavy but calm, like a storm that had finally learned how to rain softly. Kody cleared his throat. "I spent months trying to figure out how we got here," he began. "How something that started with so much love turned into so much pain. I blamed everyone, except myself. But I see now that control isn't love, fear isn't faith, and pride destroys everything." His voice cracked. "I hurt you all. I broke the very family I swore to protect. I can't undo it, but I can own it." Christine's eyes welled up. "Kody, for years I wanted to hear you say that, but now that you have, I don't feel anger anymore, just sadness that it took us this long." Robin, who had been silent near the back, finally spoke. "We all made mistakes. I thought loyalty meant defending you no matter what. But maybe loyalty should have meant standing up for the truth." Kody nodded, his eyes shining. "I know." Because true healing isn't found in the verdict. It's found in the silence that follows forgiveness. Mary leaned forward, her voice soft. "We all hurt each other in different ways. But maybe we can stop letting that define us. Maybe the real legacy isn't the show or the trials. It's that we're still here, still trying to do better." Janelle smiled, her voice warm. "We may never be the same family we were, but maybe that's okay. Families evolve." The cameras caught that moment when they all shared a fragile laugh through their tears. The fire crackled softly, casting a golden glow over faces that had once been filled with tension and resentment, now softened by time and truth. The interviewer behind the camera finally asked, "If you could say one thing to your past selves, what would it be?" Christine spoke first. "I'd tell her silence isn't strength, that walking away doesn't make you weak, it makes you free." Janelle followed. "I'd tell her survival isn't selfish." Mary smiled faintly. "I'd tell her to stop waiting for permission to be happy." Robin wiped a tear. "I'd tell her to listen before defending." And then Kody spoke, his voice low. "I'd tell him to love without control, to lead without fear, and never to let pride speak louder than love." The room fell silent. Even the camera crew was still, because sometimes, after all the battles and heartbreak, the most powerful thing you can do is simply admit you were wrong. Hours later, as filming wrapped, the family gathered outside under a starlit sky. The cool wind brushed against their faces, carrying away remnants of years of pain. Christine looked up at the stars and smiled. Do you remember when we used to sit outside like this and dream? Kody nodded faintly. Yeah, we thought forever meant staying together no matter what. Christine turned toward him. Maybe forever means forgiving, even when you can't forget. He looked at her, a faint smile crossing his face. You always had more strength than I did. No, she said softly. I just finally believed I deserved peace. The final scene faded as they all stood together, not as husband and wives, not as enemies or victims, but as people who had survived something deep and learned something even deeper. The screen turned black, and Christine's voiceover came in one last time. This story isn't about divorce. It's about rediscovery. It's about the courage to leave what breaks you and the grace to heal what remains. Love doesn't always last, but truth always does. As credits rolled, real clips of Christine laughing with her children played beside old family photos, pain and peace sharing the same frame. And then, in the last few seconds, the voiceover whispered one final line. The courtroom is closed, but the heart is open. What would you have done if you were in Christine's place?